Right. You know, I had this question for myself before. I've been wondering about this. I know some of you are going to be having this question too. This is why you click on this. I thought I got an answer, but it turns out I didn't. I'm still. Well, I think I did. I'll tell you all about it. I think the answer to that is, I don't really want to say, oh, yes and no. It depends, but I would say, see, the difference is it's hard to even do the comparison because the R9 that I have is quite a bit of a special one, I would say. It's not like the R9s that you would expect if you go to the guitar shops now and then you take an R9 or some reissue from the wall, which is likely going to be one of those late models like post 2020 or something. This is going to be completely different to it being a 2020 model. It's almost like this was made by a totally different company, or it was made by some competent luthier who done a replica of a 59 Les Paul. I would say mainly because of the tall frets. I think I was browsing around the internet for information on the fret wire on the R9s and the reissues. I found some numbers on the frets. One of the prominent ones was Gibson at some point or multiple times have used the fret wire size 5590, right? The width of the fret is 90 or something, and then the height is 55, or is it the other way around? But it's the tall and narrow. Some people will call it railroad ties because the frets are so tall, but they're not so thick like a high-end ESP guitar, for example. And I'm a bit apprehensive and reluctant to do like an electric test, like the sound of the pickups, comparing the two Les Pauls, the standard and the reissue, because I don't really think you're comparing the guitar per se. I think you're mostly comparing electronics, because let's say I take the R9 and I took out the pickups and the electronics, all of it, and then I put in those pickups and its electronics and put it all here. This will sound completely different electrically, right? Does that make sense? Conversely, if I put all these electronics and the pickups into there, this would sound like how this sounds now. Oh, but Goldie, the tone one. Okay, bro. I did notice that this Les Paul, the standard and the R9, they have a different angle, the neck pocket angle, right? If I was going to hold them both together, you will see it. I will align the body as best as I can. You can even see it. The bodies are aligned as best as I can, right? And you can see the standard. The standard has more lean. I don't know if the modern reissues are gonna be the same. The reason I point out the neck pocket angle is because how high the bridge is going to be. It's gonna make a difference in feel for the right hand. Because for what it's worth, right? If I was going to rest my hand like that, let's say in a palm mute or just resting in there, the distance from the bottom of the base of my palm from here to touching the body is probably not as much compared to on the standard. And if you're going to restring the guitar properly on the tailpiece like this, conventional, the break angle isn't too drastic and the string is not touching the tune-o-matic. They're only solely sitting on the saddles. But there's a caveat to that though. It'll depend on, like, for my the high E string. The high E string used to be touching the bridge, the tune-o-matic bridge, but turns out the intonation was a bit off. So when I adjusted the saddle, push it that way to correct the intonation, now the string is not touching the bridge. It is now solely sitting on the saddle. Do you understand? I also like the pickup ring, how it's high. So the pickup looks, You know, when it's at the proper height, it still looks like it's relatively flush with each other. When we look at the standard, I top wrapped this though. I top wrapped this so I top wrapped this recently. But with the standard, see how at the proper height of the bridge pickup, this is to my preference, of course, proper to my preference. For all you nerds out there, the pickup ring is not as high. If you're concerned about the number of pieces on the body, this is a 2-piece body, the standard, and that one is a 1-piece by the looks of it. I cannot really see any conjoinments, and if there is any wood joinings, it would be a really good blend. But I don't think there is. It just looks like a 1-piece to me. As you would expect, though, from a custom shop reissue. On the standard, it was a very good blend. However, I was still able to detect it, because on the grain here at the back, it's very hard to see. Now this obvious line there, that's not it. That's not it. But I can see it here. There's an ultra straight line from here. I can see it. It's from here. If I trace it there, if I trace it down from there, I can see it. I can see it. This dark line here, this dark thick line, it's actually along the seam. And the seam here, the seam goes from there. I can see it through the light reflection. There, I can see it here. It's a very obvious, super straight line seam, and you can see it from here as well. You see that? That's the seam there. The light surely helps. Now the weight, as I said, 4.25, and that's 3.9. I know it's only just about maybe 350 grams of difference, but you can feel it. And it's probably also because of the balance. That one is, the body is pretty lightweight, and this one is body heavy. My McCarthy is 4 kilos, but it feels a little bit on the body heavy side. It's still pretty balanced, but I can feel it. It's a bit towards the body. The frets on these are short. They're not one of those fretless wonder things, or they're not something where you're just shocked, like, oh wow, this is so low. But when they say medium jumbo, I would even disagree with them putting the word jumbo in there. I would just say something like medium. Another thing I noticed is that compared to the 2000 R9, this one has a bit of rolling on the edges. Maybe at that time, around the early 2000s, the idea of rolling the fingerboard edges was probably not a prominent idea. For me, if I'm comparing two of the same type of guitars, like two Les Pauls of different trims, I would compare it as it is, like just the body, just the guitar itself, not the plug-in sound, because of what I mentioned before. When I'm playing this, it's harder for me to do bends because of the shorter frets. It's a bit, or the lower frets, because once you do a bend, your finger is gonna get some friction from the board, because your finger's rubbing the board because it's so low. Let's see if we can get a close-up of the fret job. Fret job is good, and the fret nibs are nice. That's a hallmark of Gibson. Hallmark? I don't know, bro. You see that? I wish they were bigger or taller. And then with the R9, look at the difference there. That is tall. Yeah? I love it. Could be the, as they mentioned, 6105 or 5590, I don't know. All I know is this one plays like butter, man. With the standard, I kind of have to work for it a little bit. It's not too bad, but objectively I have to work for it. Again, let me remind you, this is a 2000 model. It's not one of the modern ones. If you play one of the modern ones, it'll probably feel similar to the standard when it comes to the playability of the fretboard. The neck shape might be different. This 50s neck is... This is a 50s neck, and that is the R9 supposed to have a 59 neck. However, that one feels more fuller. I don't know if it's a bigger neck, thicker or whatever, but my best verbiage for it is fuller, because this one feels like it has a contour. Although because this is not finished as thick as the normal standard, because it's a faded edition, the neck is not as thick as some of the other 50s necks that I tried. I think this one feels more like the modern 50s standards with a full lacquer, with a full nitro. This one has a very thin finish, a very thin nitro on it. So that could be why. I haven't really been complaining about stickiness on the VOS finish. That's a VOS, by the way. That's not a Murphy Lab, because back in 2000, I don't think they were doing Murphy Lab stuff. And also keep in mind that when you pick up an R9, whether it's a reissue or a standard, keep in mind that each guitar seems to be have its own personality or character, if you will. For example, I didn't like the other 50 standard, but I like this one. I didn't really care for much of the other reissues except for that one, right? It's hard to tell. That's why it's hard for me to say yes, it's worth the upgrade, or no, it's not really an upgrade. It's more like you're just getting something different from a completely different department or a completely different maker, if you will. Because at the end of the day, this is in a separate factory to that one. I think that the common differences that you'll find between the USA and the custom shop is something like the weight, right? How the top looks, the feel of the finish. Now, all of the differences I'm listing, the fundamental differences are of feel. How it feels on you, how it feels when you play, how it feels in your skin, right? The finish, the neck finish, the fretboard, the actual wood, right? When you feel it, the fret job, the balance. I don't know about the balance, bro, because the balance of this guitar versus the balance of the R9 didn't really cross my mind. And the reason why is because it's not like one of them has a very noticeable imbalance, like neck heavy or body heavy. They're fairly balanced. They don't catch your attention, is what I'm trying to say. If you want the pickups from the reissues, you can buy the custom buckers. You can buy the 57 Classics. I'm convinced that this R9 has 57 Classics, and perhaps even a 57 Classic Plus in the bridge, because I suspect that, because I measured it at 9.3, right? Supposedly the 57 Classic is about 9 or a bit less, and then the Plus is gonna be higher. So that could be it. I like it. It's a nice thick sound. It's more in line of how I would imagine a Gibson would sound. I think there's two fundamental types of the Gibson sound, the Gibson Les Paul sound. One is that thick raw sound. The other one is the the telly on steroids sound. And that would mainly depend on the pickups, the electronics, meaning the potentiometers. That's the difference that I'm talking about, acoustic tone, because yes, there is a difference in the acoustic tone. There's also a difference in how that feels. You hear it? Now, full disclosure though, I do remember, and I apologize for this, but the strings on that are Elixir OptiWeb, and the strings on these are Elixir NanoWeb. So there's a slight difference. I don't know how much that would affect the tone, to what degree. Maybe not much. Maybe the liveliness is going to feel more or less the same as if they were both of the same strings. Exactly the same Elixir OptiWebs. So yeah, again, it's hard, man, because of what era this R9 was from and what era this standard was from. If these were both 2024 or 2025 or the current management Gibson era, if they were the same era, my answer would probably be more relative to today. I apologize if I didn't give you the answer that you want or the answer that you need. I suppose an answer that I'm more comfortable in giving is for you to look up which shops in your area stock Gibson Les Pauls of all types, or the types you've narrowed down to. You know, if you only want standards and custom shops, reissues, look at which guitars are accessible to you that you can drive to in your area. Just try as much of them as you can. And then take notes, take videos, take a friend with you, help you with all that, taking the videos and the notes, so that you can make an informed decision where you would buy the guitar that you're gonna be truly happy with. I don't know, man. I'm just a simple guy, you know? You're the expert, aren't you? What kind of differences did you find between a standard and a reissue? Some of us want to know. So tell us. If you like this topic, you know what to do. If you didn't, you know that button, you double click it. If you want to hear me talk some more, subscribe for that. And I'll see you in the next video. I've been Goldie. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. GM.